What's going on, everybody? How you doing today? What is the deal? How are you this Monday? Bad, as everybody? It's been an interesting day. It's been an interesting 12 hours discussing United with people. I'm just gonna move something a little closer so I can see. It's been an interesting 12 hours. All the back and forth, all the discussion, all the everything that's going on has made for some seriously interesting conversation over the last little bit. And you know what? It's cool. It's cool. You know what? It's good. It's all good. Some people have really lost it, and that's okay. I get it, man. I think that it's fair that after you lose to Manchester City away 3-0, I think it's totally fair for people to be upset. I think it's totally fair for people to be upset. I mean, what the hell, man? We just lost 3-0 to City. But, like, some of the things that are said, I can't agree with. And I'm not throwing necessarily shade at these people because, like I say, I look at this and I go, it's all opinions. At the end, if you win, it's good. If you lose, it's bad. That's the reality. We all can see the game very, very differently and things like that. But, like, I'll give you an example. I just can't agree with the idea. I was discussing this with Phil. I was arguing with him on our podcast a little bit earlier. And he was arguing really, 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 really strongly that Bruno shouldn't have to track a player into the box. And I just cannot, under any circumstances, agree with that. It's just how football is. In the modern day, it's 11v11. Presses are man-to-man. Defenses are man-to-man. Usually it's just their starting positions, things like that. I just can't agree with things like that. You know what I mean? And I look at that and I go, it's hard. It's hard to discuss. It's hard to have productive conversations over everything when it's hard to agree on basic stuff. When it's hard to agree on like basic things. Plus, listen to me for a second. We're going to get to it. Don't get me wrong, because I'm not going to sit there and say that Amorim is even slightly faultless. Don't get me wrong. Would Pep ask De Bruyne to track players at DM? I've watched De Bruyne track into his own box his entire career. De Bruyne is one of the best midfielders in Premier League history because of his work rate. He is. He's been a really, 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 really good at that. And Bruno blaming Lenny Yoro in the post match is in nuts to me, and I'll tell you why. We're gonna get to it, guys. We're gonna get to it. But I watched the first half, almost the full first half, with the Patreon. A bunch of people in Patreon this morning. So people who are here from Patreon, you can pipe up if you want. Okay, not all of them, and I can tell you 100%. Definitely, not all of them, not even close, are just like Amorim-inners or something like that. And frankly, neither am I. I'm neither one or the other. But we watched that first half again. Anybody trying to pin this on a system or tactical issue alone is wrong. The problem that Amorim has is he's picking the wrong players repeatedly. It's a fact. Bruno's not going to defend. He is one of the least intelligent pressers I have ever seen. And that's just a fact. Okay? If they're not getting it, then he's picking the wrong players, and that's on him. That's on him 100%. And that's where the blame can go around. But we'll get to all of that. I do want to talk about, obviously, Amorim. I want to talk about Bruno. I want to talk about a lot of things. I also, of course, want to talk about what the actual situation is here with Ruben Amorim. Like, is he on the verge of sacked? Is he actually being backed? This is where I step out of... I step out of the, what would you call it? This is where I step away from being my opinions. All right. This is where I step away from my opinions for a minute here, and I share with you just the facts. Okay. I share with you just the facts, just the reality, because I can be totally wrong in a million opinions. And we're welcome to discuss that back and forth. We're welcome for people to disagree with me. I'm going to be wrong so many times in discussing football. We all are. We all have been a million times, and I am going to be wrong. But I want to step away from that for a second, because there's two sides to what we do here, right? One of them is the opinions, and one of them is the reality and the information of it. And you got to separate these things out. Now, listen, sometimes, for sure, I formulate my thoughts, my opinions, my views on the basis of the information that I hear, that I receive, and that essentially, to me, is the belief, because it makes sense. And I think, hey, these are people with more information than me, more data than me, more experience than me. They've actually played in the Premier League, won in the Premier League, done things in the Premier League, coached at the highest level, and done all of that. And one of the things that I've learned, certainly, and that I act upon in life, is that I try to avoid, what's the word for it? I try to avoid ending up in situations where I'm saying that the experts are all wrong on everything and that I know everything just because. All right. And that's where some of my opinions are formed. And that is there's going to be a point at the end of this. All right, 1 second. Let me just tweet this out. Okay. This is the reality of it. Okay. And if you're here, do like the video and all that. I'm just letting a few people more kind of get in here as we go. All right. But do like the video as we're here. There's only 34 likes. We can get a lot more than that. I truly don't know where people stand. I don't know. I have a feeling that most people right now, I could be wrong. I have a feeling that most people right now feel like Ruben should leave. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it isn't the majority. Maybe it isn't the majority, but it feels that way, right? Now, we kind of had this between Grimsby and Burnley and things like that, where it felt like it was the majority, and then you kind of look at it and it's like, wait, there's actually only about 20-25%. It can feel like as a content creator, as a YouTuber or whatever, as a someone with some following, that of course everybody is really reactive to what has just happened. You know what I mean? Everybody's really reactive to what has just happened. And what very often happens is that people get caught up in following that trend and feel like, I'm not saying people are fake or something like that. What I'm saying is that people get caught up in that kind of feeling, and it becomes infectious. It becomes hard to even disagree or anything, and it becomes a lot easier not to fight. And because it's fulfilling. It's fulfilling. When I sit here, let me give you an example. And I'm not even 100% proud of this because it's not who I am. But if remember the Europa League final, if you were here for after the Europa League final, I was losing it, okay? I was probably more mad than the majority of people. You know what I mean? I was more mad than the majority of people. I was ready on there to change managers because I said, look, these are preventable errors. Okay? So I think it tends to be a bit unfair about, you know, how you know, when you're lumping in opinions and things like that and all that, because I've been very, very clear in my criticisms of it. But at that time, way back then, during the Europa League final and afterwards, I called out the decisions that were made the night before and said, if we do this, we're going to lose. Most people disagree with that. And that's why I say just let the opinions be. We're all going to zig and zag so much, so many times. You know, so many times we're all going to zig. when we should zag, and we're going to zag when we should zig, and we're going to be on the right and the wrong side of everything. It's really easy to follow the crowd. I don't actually know where people are at, but sometimes what I don't like is I see that, I'm not talking about opinions now, that sometimes the information starts to blend with the opinion, and you start to go, well, people are reporting what they want to hear. People reporting what they want to say, and then it gets amplified, because it's the loud opinion at the moment, and you start to get the idea that things are different than they are within the club, behind the scenes, all of that. Take, for example, I'm just going to, again, go back to this point and say, take, for example, this thing of the players and their feelings on Amorim and leaks and things like that. I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. It's not my opinion. I don't mess around with this stuff, all right? It's not my opinion. I told people years ahead on this who some of the problems were in the dressing room, who were some of the leaks, who were some of the things, who were some of the agencies that caused trouble. I don't believe me. You can go find my comments about CAA base from years ago. I told you before, there's a reason a lot of agents don't talk to me because I actually care more about the club than I do about those connections. That's unfortunate. There are people who want to cause trouble. There are people who are trying to dictate the way that the club is run. There are people that want to be the tail wagging the dog and saying, I want to make sure I get my manager. I want to make sure I get my tactics. I want to make sure I get my thing. And they're going to wheedle and needle and get things done, okay? And try and work this through. And it's been happening for years, and it's been acceptable for years. And it's not about Ruben Amorim. It has nothing to do with Ruben Amorim. Because when I first did this, I talked about Jose Mourinho and I talked about Anthony Martial and Paul Pogba. Anthony Martial's agent was one of those. He was trying, he did his best to wheedle out Jose Mourinho and ensure that he got sacked. He tried everything he could to put the manager on the opposite sides of the players in the media and among the fan base and all of that, and to put Pogba on the opposite side of Jose in the media and all of that. And at that time, we had ownership that were stupid. We had management that was stupid. We had management that cared more about Twitter likes and things like that than they did about making sense. They had just given Jose Mourinho a new contract. Do you remember that? We just gave Jose Mourinho a new contract. And what did we do? He said, these players won't work for me. And they forced them to stay. And they stabbed him in the back. Well, I guess it's in the front because it was pretty obvious. Everybody knew it. They just gave him a new contract, and they did that. And that was the death of it. That was the death of the club for a long time because they did the same thing to Oli, and they did the same thing to Ten Hag. And yeah, there are people who've been here that whole time, unfortunately. And it'll keep happening. And it's not just even about individuals. But go ahead. Look at the client base. Go ahead. Go look at the player base of some of these people. It's not even necessarily the players. There's agents and there's contacts and there's things like that, and there's people that are trying to do stuff all the time in the best interest of their players and things like that, right? And that kind of stuff happens. But there's a lot of stuff that goes in to doing this. There's a lot of stuff that goes into creating this kind of culture. And what I will not buy or amplify in that respect or pass along is stuff that isn't true. Yeah, there you go. They've been around our club a long time. I won't amplify certain things, okay? Because it's a marker of fail. And so when I talk about things, it isn't because I'm sitting here and saying, well, that means we don't have to, that there's no responsibility for the manager or anything like that. Not even a little bit. Not even a little bit. That's not where I stand at all. However, we will end up right back here no matter what, if these other things are not called out. And not enough people are calling them out. And not enough people are talking about them. And not enough people are pushing on them. We will end up here again. And it is easy to be fooled. It is easy to be fooled. We're all guilty of it, you know? But we will end up here again. It's not a joke. I mean, look, it happens faster and faster and faster. People go, oh, it's been 9 months. Yeah, guys, it's been 9 months. It's been 9 months. 10 months now, I suppose. It's been 10 months. You realize how fast that is for the fans and players to turn on a manager and say he should be sacked. You realize how fast it is to turn on a manager and say, I'm not saying that it's even wrong. I'm just saying that is really, really, really fast. It's really, really fast. And I won't amplify it because people are going to paint the idea that there is a war inside United, and there isn't. And if there is, then the people waging it are silent. They are silent, and they're committing a silent mutiny. There's such a thing, by the way, a silent mutiny. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but there's a silent mutiny. And there are people who do it. And those need to be called out. And those need to be 10 months of the summer routine, 7.5 months of management. And those people need to be called out. And that doesn't mean that Ruben Amorim should stay or has no fault in all of this. But those players have all got failure attached to their backs. If I go through the first games, and I ignore, and I say, cool, there's the manager. We already know that. I'm not going to make comparisons to Ferguson and things like that. It doesn't matter to me. You got to win games. It's cool. We already know that. So everybody on earth, if you wonder, why do I keep talking about players? Because everybody on earth has talked about the manager. I'm not ignoring it. But it's known. Everybody knows the manager's got to do a better job. And we'll keep talking about that. But then there's the player. Then there's the players. And they have a lot of responsibility in this. Look at the mistakes. Look at the players who make mistakes week in and week out. The big mistakes week in and week out. Why did we concede a goal? Week 1, Altay Bayindir and Bruno. Why did we concede against Fulham? Bruno. Why did we miss a penalty? Bruno. Why do we concede both goals against even Grimsby? Onana. Why did we concede twice against Burnley? Shaw and Dallow and Bayindir. Why did we concede 3 times against City? Bruno. Shaw. Maguire. It's the same names again and again and again and again and again and again and again. And they're not the only players that are not playing well, but it is the same players over and over and over again who make mistakes every single week that cost us. It is, unfortunately. And there's no consequences. That's my problem with Bruno. With Ruben. With Bruno as an example of that. That's my problem with Ruben. Where's the consequences? Example. The day before the derby, we get the quotes.
Said it, fans aren't willing to endure a rebuild.
100%. The day before we get the quotes. About Kobbie Mainoo, which I agree with. Kobbie Mainoo needs to improve on these areas. Kobbie Mainoo needs to do this. Kobbie Mainoo needs to do better in that. I'm good with all that. I think he's absolutely right. But then Bruno keeps doing the same thing. Like he specifically said in the eight, Bruno is turning around. He said Bruno was the one who's actually tracking back. That's why he's playing over Kobbie. Then the next day, Bruno doesn't track back. So you can say shouldn't be in that position. It doesn't matter. Listen to what he just said. He said Bruno is the one in the 8 supposed to track back. It's his job. So if he's not doing it, then there's no reason for him to be playing. In that sense, this is where Ruben is to blame. That's the truth of it. That's how I see it, and that's how I'm always going to see it. There's too much otherwise. There's too much noise, and it's not just Bruno, and it's not just Shaw, and it's not just somebody
scenario,
else.
Amorim magically gets it and stops playing Bruno/Shaw. Most likely, we maybe change the managers but keep bringing right profile of players, so it works regardless of manager Madrid. Worst case, we repeat the...
Yeah, right. Yeah, 100%. 100% agreed with all of that. The real answer, and the only answer is... I agree with that, Avrad, by the way. The only answer, if the blind spot is a problem for me, it's the biggest problem. There has to be consequences for everybody on the pitch. Erling Haaland wasn't getting away with not defending yesterday. Erling Haaland was not getting away with not defending yesterday. The right answer, and where I feel in the long term positive, is they'll all be gone anyway, soon enough. That's the truth. They will be gone anyway. They will be gone anyway. Just
Players
keep that in mind.
Amorim and be trying their best, but just not
Sure.
be good enough to execute the way this system demands.
Yeah.
How does Amorim fix that?
Yeah, exactly. I agree. That is probably part of it. That's the truth. That was my point on the info side of it. They are trying. Some of them just can't fucking do it. So then it becomes, what's the answer to that? Well, we'll get to that. Let me get to the actual information again as well on Ruben Amorim and his position as of today. Okay, and where it stands from as far as I have heard, which I'm pretty confident in. First of all, I said during the break, that the view from within was that progress is being made behind the scenes. Again, separate out opinion here. I'll let this one read out.
Not anti-Bruno as you are, but of all games yesterday was the one to put him at the forward 10 and Kobe to start. A mod at 10 was invisible.
Yeah, agreed with that, by the way. Mazraoui out wide is one of the decisions that will lose him games and the job if he keeps it up. It's just not right. It's not the right way. The view within the club during the break was that progress is being made. They like a lot of things that they are seeing. One game isn't going to change that. In their view, you're just going to have to accept that. That's their view. They still believe that fully. The other factor here is, of course, you're not going to be able to separate Ruben from Omar Barada and Jason Wilcox. You're just not. They're looking at this, and they're the ones feeling like there is progress. They're the ones analyzing the data. They're the ones feeling like we're on the right track. They're the ones observing what's going on. They're the ones feeling like, okay, what are we doing here? Sir Jim, it's really funny because no matter what I say now, which is the truth, I'm going to get accused of something by somebody. But I know this for sure. Sir Jim is more like everybody else, okay? Which is one of the things I like about him. I think it's good to have the perspective of somebody in Sir Jim who is not as stuck within the club, who's not as ingrained in it. He's gonna feel like it's his, like if it fails, it's on him. No doubt about that. Of course, he's gonna feel like if it fails, it's on him because it's his club. He's running the place to a degree, right? They're his appointments, but as opposed to meaning then you're going to have to just stay with things that are not working endlessly. Sir Jim's feeling is he's a fan. He knows how important it is that we win games. The difference between Sir Jim and a lot of fans is a lot of fans look at why we're losing and they come up with endless explanations for it that most of them aren't right. Frankly, he's not doing that, which is the right idea. He's not going to sit there and say, well, it's because you're paying a 3 at the back, or it's because you're getting overloaded in the midfield, because you're asking center backs to step up like everybody else does in football. It's not because of that. He's not going to say it's because of that. What he's going to say is we need to start winning soon. And that's the answer. Now, the difference is where you're going to maybe turn on it in a little bit. If you think he thinks that it's like changing manager is going to fix it, you're wrong on that front. He's very, very well. Just bear in mind there's a difference here in the way that things are communicated between Sir Jim and the people there now and how it was briefly under Ten Hag. When Ten Hag was there, it was Sir Jim Wilcox, which was Jim and Wilcox and a few other executives getting together. Ten Hag wasn't even there. Ten Hag wasn't even there. Now, Sir Jim put on a lot of pressure to make the change with Ten Hag, but he wanted him gone in the first place. And so he was convinced by certain people that, hey, we'll see how it goes. It didn't change, and that was that. But there was a lot of other issues. So the point being that the communication between him is going to be with Omar, with Wilcox, and with Amorim. Why is this not working? And what can we do to fix it? So it's significantly more likely in the immediate that if there's some kind of change, it's simply going to be pressure from Sir Jim or something like that to say, hey, what can we do to win some more games without quitting on what we're doing here? Or are we all going to gamble with our futures, Omar, Jason, and Ruben Amorim? Are we all going to gamble with our futures and say, we do believe what we're saying in this progress, and at some point, it's going to tip over, and we're going to start winning games? A huge backbone of belief is that we still have to turn over more of the team. We still have to turn over more of the team. We still have to turn over more of the team. And you have to bear in mind one of the problems that we have here, which is a problem, okay, that people don't necessarily want to accept, okay? When they went to recruit managers last year in summer, when they went to Thomas Tuchel, he didn't want to follow the plan. He didn't want to follow the plan. He wanted to make demands about recruitment, demands about players, demands about things, and he didn't. And he had his own things that he wanted. When you soon realize that all managers are incredibly egotistical, you'll recognize that it's kind of hard to get the right person in when you're trying to build something, because you do need to get somebody who is kind of willing to lose a lot of games. So the next choice, and deal with that pressure and not quit on their system, because the system is in alignment with what they want. Let's say they go to the next manager. That's not what I'm talking about. You guys are taking it way over the top. That's not what I'm saying. Listen to what I'm saying. Okay? Finding somebody who will come in and say, all right, I'm going to play the way you want, I'm going to play the way you want, even if I don't have the players for it. And I'm not going to adjust and change the system just to suit players that are no longer going to be here in the future. Okay? What is their system? You tell me. You have a criticism of it. I can tell what it is. It's pretty obvious. It's pretty obvious. Thomas Frank hasn't needed complete change in system. Thomas Frank hasn't changed Spurs' system. Thomas Frank hasn't changed Spurs' system. He hasn't changed Spurs' system. He just hasn't. You make these excuses for Moyes or Ten Hag. I'm not making excuses. I'm telling you the info. Okay? I'm telling you the info. That's the reality of it. I'm separating it from opinion. I'm telling you the reality of what they've dealt with. That it is not that easy. And if you can't accept that they do need a manager who's willing to not immediately go pragmatic and go backwards, doesn't mean you can get the right person in place. It's not as easy as you think it is. It's not as easy as you think it is. It's just not. I wish it were. It would be far too easy. But you say, all right, we bring in Iraola. Have you ever watched Iraola play football? Have you ever watched Iraola manage his team? If you're making excuses for Bruno Fernandes not tracking players and you want to bring in Iraola, you better be on my side of that discussion. He won't last 1 minute. Neither will Kobbie Mainoo. They do not have the intensity to play the way that he would have them playing, the way that he's going to demand them to. And so the question becomes, will we stick to it? Will he keep it going? If we were to bring in somebody like Iraola, would he stick to the plan? Would he stick to the plan or would he abandon it? Because people don't recognize that you get athletes at the lower level. You get athletes across the Premier League. I don't care if you win more games. That's not the question. You get athletes across the game. Iraola plays long ball, high press, win the ball back up top and score. It's not even that different to some of the things that we do, and it requires even more intensity. Okay? It's not that simple. It's just not. Unfortunately, it's not, because then he's going to be faced with the same choice, because the standard is not to win 2 games. You can say, oh, I wish we'd win 2 games. Guess what? If we change managers and by the end of the season we're still in 8th, you can win back-to-back games and get 8th. And you'll still be asking for the manager to leave at that point in time. You know it. It's a fact, because that's also not good enough. Going further and deeper into mediocrity doesn't necessarily win you anything. It doesn't. Paul Scholes' quote said the same. Many United players lack legs, intensity, aggressiveness, all of that. Apart from Shaw, Dalot, Maguire, who needs to go.
Shortloat, Maguire, who
all
else
of them,
needs
man.
To go?
Anybody who's been here from before needs to go. All of them. But that is the view. It is not easy to get a manager to come in who's just going to do the same thing. Who's going to abandon what they're doing right off the bat, or who is going to say, all right, we have to do it exactly the way I want. That doesn't align with the club. It's not that simple. It's just not that simple. That's the view. But regardless of that, the view is, of course, as well, that things are improving. And people may not believe it. That's fine. We have to win games. We have to win games. If we don't win games, then whatever. And the rest is noise. The rest is absolutely noise. How we want to play, how we want to do this, how we want to do that. What is the right thing? Oh, we have a 10, all of that kind of stuff into this position. It doesn't really matter. We have to win games. That's the answer, and that can come in many different forms.
I don't think Amorim or the players are at fault. 8 players left the club and 4 came in. Sir Jim should have bought 4 more players. Now
yeah, I mean, fair enough.
Consequences of their negligence.
Fair enough. The squad has not been turned over. The squad has not been turned over. That's for sure. The squad has not been totally turned over yet. I think we're like a few of the ways there. By next summer, if you kick out 5 more players, then we could be there. That is very, very possible. That is very, very possible. That by next, either way, no matter what, if we change managers, that's what's going to happen. We're going to move on multiple players and continue to turn the squad over, which is what needs to happen. But look, at the end of the day, you have to win games. The thing that I don't like at all is that, and where I just can't disagree is, or where I can't agree rather, is that is this focus on like, well, it has to be this way. Everybody's going to have a different view of football. And when you're losing, everybody has the answer until it doesn't work. Until it doesn't work. And then it changes. But that's the view within, whether anybody agrees with it or not. Like I said, there is a disconnect because I know that that's not how most fans feel. Actually, let's look. Let's see if we're being led on. All right. Actually, I'm just going to ask this bluntly. I'm curious. I really don't know what people think like, frankly. There we go. Poll took a second. Is that view from within because they sacked the guy? That's not what happened. People have such bullshit that's come from Twitter about Dan Ashworth. That's just totally false. That's just totally false. It's so funny. That's why I say a lot of bullshit gets amplified. Dan Ashworth being treated as some savior? Jesus, man. Good Lord. I think there's any progress. There's progress, but also some regression. Yes, but probably. I mean, you probably yes, but not enough. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm not disagreeing with you at all. Progress in our play style. Sure. Game win and lose ratio is massive. Some of the players finished 4th, 2nd, and won some trophies. This can mean 2 things to me. Players are good enough, but they switch it on when they want or not. Yep, I think that's a huge issue, Ray. I think that's a huge. So there, I've got the poll. It's been a decent one.
I like Amorim as much as anyone. However, you've consistently said that we are buying players for the club and not the manager. Therefore, changing the manager shouldn't impact the rebuild that much.
Yeah, in theory, but when? But when and who? My point is that it doesn't impact the rebuild. because you're absolutely right, and I've said that, and I agree with that statement still. It won't ruin the rebuild to change managers. You have to understand my take on it. I don't care. I think it's pointless. That's the issue. I think it's pointless. That's where I'm at. I think it's pointless. It's not that it's going to ruin it. I think it's pointless. I think that it could ruin it because let's say you go get somebody else. Not many managers want to go through a rebuild. Right. That is the truth as well. Not many. Like, you bring someone else in, who are they going to build the team around? Because someone asked this. Everybody wants to change managers. You bring someone in, who are they building the team around? That's a question that I think anybody could answer. You bring somebody else in, who are they building the team around? Like, let's say you were to go and get Antonio Conte, okay? Let's say you were going to go get Antonio Conte.
Don't you think that Premier League is way above Portuguese league and the system may need some tweaks? Did we get Ruben for system or for winning?
Good question. Let me wait for this one and I'll answer it. I'm watching the Tuchel
conspiracy take place live.
Oh, yes, you are. Oh, yes, you are, Davey Cooper. I'm right, too. Don't you think? Yeah, look, the Premier League is always going to be different, and you're going to have to adjust your system. You're going to have to adjust your system. You absolutely are. But you do also have to lay in some of the foundations. I'll give you the example of why I don't rate the majority of critiques.
What other managers play this system well?
Probably Conte is the closest, okay? Probably Conte is the closest, okay? But if you were to bring Conte in, he's going to do the same things that we're talking about here. If you're complaining about Ahmad being at wingback, buckle up, buddy. All your wingers are now wingbacks, okay? If you're complaining about the work rate in the middle, good luck, because you're not getting away with it in that team. Okay? I'm just saying, if you take what he did to win a league in the Premier League, to win with his system in the Premier League, and by the way, he did come back to the Premier League and it didn't go so well either, just for what it's worth. But if you're saying he's going to come win in the Premier League, then good luck, okay? Because either he's going to do a lot of the same things that you're talking about right now, okay? And that's fine. And that's fine. And that's totally fine to me. That is totally fine for me. Conte would make sure we have an athletic midfield and holds no bar against players who are not good enough. Yeah, agreed. No, I like it. I think he would be okay. But like, the people who want, he's going to have the exact same problems in the squad. Sorry to say, he's going to play the exact same. He's going to have the exact same problems in the squad, and he's going to demand that we turn it over even more than we already are in order to get what he needs. And he's probably right. And he's probably absolutely right. He's going to ask you to turn over half the players you just bought plus everybody else at the same time. It's fair enough with me. But I'm going to give you an example of why I look at it and I go, okay, hold on a second. Like, you have to lay in the groundwork before tweaking. Let's talk about United's build-up for a moment, okay? I have to find the minute that this actually happened on. Give me 2 seconds. Because I rewatched the game this morning, as I said, with some people, and to look at what we were looking at and see what actually happened in this game, and find out like what's really going wrong. Last year, it was all up in arms. Everybody was up in arms about the inverted center back. Everybody on the planet was up in arms about the inverted center back. This was what everybody was fucking doing. was talking about the inverted center back. Inverted center back. Every time you listen to somebody, the inverted center back is why we're losing games. The inverted center back is what's going wrong with our team. The inverted center back is everything. We're screwed because of the inverted center back. It never stopped, man. Like, it literally never stopped. The talk about this fucking inverted center back. It was just ridiculous. Okay. And I calmly explained last year why he inverts the center back, because all you have to do to understand it is actually watch the team in Portugal. Against Arsenal, the inverted center back was our best tool to beat the press. The inverted center back was the thing that made all the difference in that game. We don't always invert the center back. We learned how to do it, and we integrated it into our build-up strategy. Once we learned it, then variance comes into play in terms of the build-up. Now, the inverted center back, that is again, supposedly the worst possible thing anyone can do, and all the experts say is the problem. I'm going to show you what happened yesterday. All right, we're going to look at this, and I'm going to try to do like tiny little clips here, okay? I'm going to try to do so I don't get any issues with copyright, okay? This is at 5:43, 5:55, okay? We're going to go back. Let me pull it off the screen so I can go back and get it to the exact right spot so I can do like a 2-second play. And you're going to see. And you're going to see the inverted center back. Ready? All right. Ready? 2 seconds. Inverted center back. Good. Ball goes to De Ligt. Now, what do you think he does with it? What do you think happens? Inverted center back. He's dropping behind the number 9. Goalkeeper has to make a brave pass to him, which baits out another player. And what happens in this situation? Ready? We'll forward it. Ball goes forward. Reaches Ahmad. In acres and acres of space. Beats City's press in one pass. The inverted center back. That can never work in football. It can never work in football. It's the biggest problem we have. It's never going to work. That's it. And then what does Ahmad do? Fucks the play up, unfortunately. Unfortunately, you have Dorgu all the way down here at the bottom, and he passes it out over to there, and we lose the ball. That's what happened. That's what happened. And it didn't work once. It's worked repeatedly, time and time again, once we understood how to do it and are able to execute it effectively. Okay? That's a big part because of De Ligt getting it, which he wasn't last year, and by India. Now, is this to say, oh my God, the system is working, everything's okay because the inverted center back worked? No, what it is to say is people don't know what the fuck they're talking about. And they say it with so much vigor that this is what's wrong. I'm 100%. This is what's wrong. And they don't actually fucking know. We're losing games. We're losing games. Okay? We're losing games. That's what's wrong. And everybody thinks they're going to solve it and that they know. And it's my least favorite part of football. It's so easy to sit and say, we're not winning, therefore that is the reason why. It's so easy. But they're wrong. They're wrong about it. They're not getting why. And it just makes it so toxic in the whole environment because people really then stick to that. Then they stick to that. And they can't accept that maybe that wasn't the problem in the first place. Maybe the problem with the inverted center back was that Onana couldn't pass 5 fucking yards without sending it out and was too much of a pussy to kick the ball to the midfielder. Maybe that was really what was the reason. And the reason that Bayindir keeps playing is because he's actually taking that risk, making that pass to beat it, right? And this is where I get so irritated because I go, we're going to do this again as a community, as a fan base. We're going to say we're losing. It's the system because we're all fucking football manager experts and know what's wrong with the system. More often than not, it is a consequence of not having the right players in the right system. The one thing that I like, even though it isn't working, is what I'm seeing from Ruben Amorim in this game, in what we're doing, is I know who the frauds are. I know who the frauds are, and I know who wasn't. I know who is stepping up. I know the guys that are phoning it in, and you do too. The light is being shined on so many players. The light is being shined on so many people where I'm looking at, and I'm surprised by it. And that is one thing that I think is actually quite valuable, that I think people are going to 100% disagree on and say it's not valuable. It's valuable. It means something. We've never actually been able to see it before, simply because of this issue here. Okay, now I'm gonna show you something else. Blood pressure warning. And unfortunately it is too many people. It is too many people. Yeah, I was gassing the hell out of Sean. Sean, you know what? I was wrong. I was totally wrong. Now find one person admitting they were wrong about the inverted center back thing. Find one. You won't. People won't admit they're wrong. I will, but I'm cool with that. I've said that. How many times have you guys watched me and I say I was wrong? It happens all the time. It happens all the time, okay? I am wrong a lot, okay? I sit here and I talk way too much to be right all the time. I'm right. I think I'm right more often than not about certain things, but not all the time. That's for sure. Don't get me wrong. I'm certainly not perfect. But tell me who has come up and said, you know what? All that shit we talked last year about this, I get it now. It's working. I see what was happening. I see what's going right. I see that that's working. Okay? Cool. Nobody will. And that's fucking irritating, man. Because it's all about this culture and that I do not buy into of being unable to be wrong. And you're not gonna find me in that, okay? I hate the whole like having a go at everybody because then you will feel better because of your, a fan and all of that. Is Delict the inverted CB? He's the CB, can be inverted for coming to the ball and it bypasses him. It didn't bypass him. He's in the midfield and he stepped into that space and sent it long. Like this, I'm sorry, Onane, is a completely incorrect
really.
comment.
Amorim might feel Bruno is better than Mainu, but Bruno has been average in 3/4 games. Mainu deserves a chance. If he also fails, then fares. We grind it out till Jan. Never start Shaw.
Yeah, sure. All right. I agree with that pretty much. But when you say it's clear that I have no understanding of the game because I pointed out that Ahmad 6 minutes into the game, that was at the 6-minute mark, shouldn't have passed to Dorgu because he was wasteful all game. I'm sorry, but it's you who doesn't understand. It is you who doesn't understand. You do not abandon the system 6 minutes in and make the wrong pass and say, well, it's the right choice because Dorgu had been messing it up all game. Ahmad's pass went out for a throw-in, by the way. It's just a bad decision. There's nothing else in it. It was just a bad decision. It's genuinely not much more complicated than that. There was nothing to defend in that. It was a great build-up, a great play that was just messed up. That's it. I'm going to show you something else too, all right? And this is where I say, like, people will listen to a quote and then they just latch on to it. And I think that in the end, what happens is they don't look with their eyes anymore, all right? This is the goal we concede, okay? This is where Bruno is saying, by the way, that he is supposed to jump to Rodri. Okay, look, guys, this is Rodri. This is Rodri. That's not Bruno's man. It's not a trigger for him to press. It's not a player for him to press. He is not supposed to do anything in there. This is Phil Foden. And that is Bruno. This is Lenny Yoro. And that is Doku. Doku jumps. Yoro stays in line with him because he must. And Bumo presses the ball carrier. Bruno gets caught growing roots on his feet. Doesn't move. Lets Foden run off of him. Is caught in no man's land. And pins it all on Lenny Yoro. That is not captain behavior. And that is not the midfield being overloaded. I can count 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's somebody not doing their job. And he's not even operating as an 8. He's operating as a 10 in this position, as a central 10. He's the one confused. He's the one confused. And the culture of passing that blame on to another player is crazy to me from the captain. Even if he was right. Then let's look what happens here. You have to watch this. You have to watch this. I suggest you go watch this minute right here, just before 17. Yes, this was the instance he's talking about. This is where they score. That ball goes to Foden. They get all the way down the pitch. Now watch. What is Bruno doing here at 17 minutes? Watch it in real time, I beg you. You know what he does at that point in time? He turns around to yell at Lenny Yoro. Still, in the same sequence of play, he turns around to yell at Lenny Yoro and flap his arms and doesn't notice that Phil Foden runs away from him. And he's stuck 8 yards away, marking Anthony Taylor. Because he's so focused on turning around, yelling at Lenny Yoro for something that he blames him for, when he's the one who did not see Doku behind him, when he's the one that was poor scanning, so that Yoro had to switch to Doku in that instance. So he leaves him. So now Ugarte's here, and he gets caught right in between these two players. He moves up in between these two players, because now he's got to watch out for Doku and Phil Foden in this situation. And here's Bruno again. Ugarte, he's marking Doku. Doku is his man. He's going for Doku. He blocks the pass. Foden walks in behind Bruno. And that's it. And it's a goal. Here's, I have it slightly out of sequence, but look. You can see that Ugarte steps over here because he's trying to step in between these two players, which is exactly why this happens, because Bruno's just yelling at Lenny Yoro. And then he doesn't follow Foden again, and they score. And what does he do after they score? He turns around and yells at Lenny Yoro some more. It has nothing to do with cams as DMs. That's being a dickhead. He's a captain. Passing the buck on to somebody else. I don't care what position you are playing on the pitch. The positions are all made up anyways. There's no such thing as a cam. He doesn't have a FIFA card that says, my chemistry is lower if I play deeper. This is FIFA culture. Every player is able to play in different areas of the pitch and is supposed to take responsibility for their job. And the captain is supposed to take responsibility for the team. He's doing the opposite. Okay? He's doing the opposite. And that is not okay. That is not acceptable. And that is part of the culture I'm talking about that has to change. That it just keeps happening. And that is, unfortunately, Ruben Amorim's blind spot, I think, because he doesn't seem to see it. And that bothers me. That worries me more than anything. That's my biggest problem with Ruben today, is that he doesn't see that.
Where would we be without Bruno thing is awful. It's created this narcissistic version of Bruno where he can do no wrong / blames teammate. Brutal.
Yeah, brutal. It is brutal. And let's go back. Let's take a look at Bruno Fernandes. Ready? Here we go. Let's call a spade a spade. Bruno anticipates shift in his position. 23 March 2024. You know how long ago that was? 16 months. 16 months. Manchester United captain Bruno Fernandes, this is Manchester United's own website, by the way, believes he will drop into a deeper position as his career evolves. The skipper played centre back as a youngster and was in the defensive role as the Reds stormed back to beat Liverpool 4-3 in the Emirates FA Cup last weekend. I have played, however, especially last season, with Coach Ten Hag deeper, he added. In fact, against Everton, I played number 6, and I still think it was one of the most complete games I've played at all levels. In terms of passing, game organization, defense, and tactics, I have a little thought in my head that I'm going to end my career further back, because everyone who started there and went to number 10 ended up retreating on the field in the end. It's a position I like, playing deeper, facing the game more with the ball. It makes my game a lot easier because I have a broader view of the game, and it is ideal for what we've talked about with the last pass, which can sometimes come from deeper on the pitch. The game with Everton was the one in which I created the most scoring opportunities, even though I was playing deeper and not as a number 10. So are we going to say that Bruno has no clue about football now? Because he does. Because he absolutely does. So Bruno himself will say, I can play deeper. I'm good at playing deeper. I can do the job. I like seeing more of the game. I created more chances deeper than I did in the 10. I can do that role. And as I age, I will move deeper, like Paul Scholes. There's no fucking excuse for it. He can't do it, unfortunately. I don't think he can, which is a bummer, because I had that view for Bruno for a long time as well. I hoped that he would move deeper in his role. What bothers me is that he's doing it poorly, and he's shirking the responsibility onto others. Okay, I don't think it's working, and I understand why he likes playing deeper, even because I don't believe that he doesn't. I understand why Ruben is putting him deeper as well. I said the same thing. He likes him to see the whole game, switch the play out to the wingers, wing backs, things like that. I like that, okay? I like that aspect. I get it. It's not working. So if I'm going to soften up a little bit and stop yelling at Bruno constantly, even though he does the same to his teammates, which I don't think is okay, he can't do it and it's not working. But here's the problem. Are you ready for the problem, my friends? He can't play in the 10 either, because he doesn't get the role in the 10 in this system. There is no system. This system doesn't fit him. So we have two choices. Amorim, yeah. We have two choices. The two choices are you turn the team back into a Bruno team, or he stops playing. My bigger concern is the attitude aspect, because if he cannot do the job, that's fine. Not everybody can do everything. That's fine. But he can't keep blaming everyone else on the pitch when he messes up. He's put Lenny in trouble now multiple times. Against Arsenal, it was his pass to Lenny Yoro in his own box that resulted in him having to... resulted in the corner they scored off of because it was just an awful pass backwards. Do we have any center mids who fit the system? Well, here's the truth of it, in my opinion, and this is where I think Ruben is getting it wrong. Ruben said in his comments that get rid of Amorim and the Bruno problem is solved. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. Bruno is still there, still the club captain. Now you've sacked the manager for him. Great. Great. Unbelievable. Wonderful. And then it's just going to be another Bruno team. That doesn't solve that problem. It's the same problem. Is the next manager going to drop him? If so, then it probably solves the problem. Or is the next manager going to play a system that matches it? These are issues. These are issues. These are problems that we have to accept, that we have to deal with. These are the reality of the situation. If you get rid of Bruno and Amorim, then that's fair. If it's and, but I'm the one talking about and. I'm the one who's been talking about and. If we have center mids who fit this position. So that's, again, where I think Ruben is getting it wrong. So, like, if fair enough, if Amorim said in the day before that Bruno is tracking back as an 8, that's what he wants from his 8. If Bruno's not doing it, then put Cobby in that position and see if he will. That's all. I think that Cobby will be better at it. I think that Cobby will be better at it. And I think we'd be a better team right now. Like I said after Fulham, I said the exact same thing. That was weeks ago. I said, look, this Bruno-Cobby competition is cool with me. If it's fair. If Bruno is any good, if Bruno is killing it, then it's fair not to drop him. If he's not, then you have to make the change and be willing to make that change. Okay? And that's the biggest issue that I see. He has to get that right. The second issue that I see, because it's not just Bruno's not the only selection problem in Amorim's team, to be fair. The second issue is the biggest one. Not the biggest one, but it's very big. Okay? It's very, very, very big to me. I'll show it here. It kind of cracks me up, I don't mean to be mean about this, okay? But the second issue that bothers me, who begged Bruno to stay?
Who begged Bruno to stay?
Not probably his wife, to be honest. Unless you can find me a good source that says anything that isn't public, and you know for a fact what actually happened on that. Probably his wife, for as far as I know. She was very influential in his staying and not wanting to go to Saudi, which I would say is understandable. This is what happens on the other side. Okay, this is Masraoui. Okay, up here. Masraoui is so slow to get forward. By the time the opportunity comes to overlap, it's already over. Okay? By the time the opportunity comes to overlap, it's already over. And I saw that this happened a lot, unfortunately. There was like quite a number of instances. This is another selection issue. And it's a bit of a different selection issue because this isn't Masraoui not doing the job or not focusing or not following or something like that. He literally isn't fast. That's it. It's not focus. It's not anything. He's just not fast. And he just returned from injury. He's not like that is a similar selection issue. Bruno's not working deep for certain reasons. I'll criticize him because of the way that he acts. Okay? Not because he isn't a good defender. I know he's not a good defender. But pushing the responsibility onto others is my main problem with that. That's a cultural problem. After the goal is scored, Bruno is still yelling at Lenny Yoro after he watches Phil Foden walk in. That's a problem. I don't like that. Mazraoui doesn't have the pace and the speed to play at that position compared to Ahmad. He also doesn't have the one-on-one ability compared to Ahmad. So when he was getting in that position, he was very, very quickly just passing it out instead of taking a man on like Ahmad did when he was on against Burnley. I think that was a big mistake. Huge mistake, okay? That was a big, big, big mistake. It was one of the same big mistakes he said before the Europa League final. Don't do that. Because this team is really, really defensive if you pick two fullbacks. Dorgu is in the middle because he's really athletic. So he gets up and down. If you pick a defender on the right wing back side, it's bad. If you pick an attacker on that side, it's usually good. Most of our performances, most of our good performances have come with a winger at wing back, and most of our bad ones have come with a fullback at wing back. Okay? Ahmad, even this season, played well when he started at wing back against Burnley. I know he didn't score, but he did play well. And it's just the team just plays better. The team just plays better. Additionally, Ahmad, I got to tell you what's so crazy to me. Like, there were some moments late on when we're crossing the ball. We're crossing it to Ahmad. Because he's one of the 10s, we're sending the cross into Ahmad in the middle because he's one of the 10s. Xerxes should have played 1,000,000% in that, okay? Because there's no excuse for that, in my opinion. That's one of those ones, like I'm saying, that just Ruben has just got totally wrong. Xerxes should have played. 100%. There's just it's not even a question. Xerxes should have played in the 10. He drops. He's big. He's got size. He can get the ball out. That way we have attackers with pace running down the side. Ahmad's pace and 1v1 ability is neutralized by playing in the middle. It's the way that he plays. It doesn't work there. Dropping in so deep. It's just not his position. Him running from out to in as a winger, that's where he's good. It should have been Xerxes. So I thought there was a few bad choices being made here. The Xerxes not getting on the pitch early is a problem to me. Definitely a problem to me. Definitely something I don't like. But yeah, he does keep getting it wrong, shenanigans. That's what I have a problem with him. And like that's what I see. The upside to that. The upside to that. If Amorim's getting sacked, it should be over his lineup selection. Yeah. Yes. Here's the upside to that. You can fix it. Why Ruben blames Euro? Because he's mates with Mainu? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know about that. The upside is you can fix it. You can fix it. You have the opportunity to fix it. You have the options to fix it. It doesn't require you changing your system. It doesn't require you changing your philosophy. It doesn't require you doing something you won't be willing to do. You can pick different players without changing your philosophy. We've done it many, many times. And where Wilcox and Omar and all of them with Ruben Amorim need to step up, you're not getting it. He didn't say he's not going to change. He says he's not going to change his philosophy. He's not going to change his system. I'm not asking him to change his system. He won't. And he's not going to. He has to change his selections of players and stop relying on the guys that are killing us.
Ever drop Bruno?
That's the good question. That is the $1 million question. No, you're not getting it. He has never said he wouldn't rotate or change the players that he picks. He has to change who he picks. That is not changing his philosophy. People do not understand the philosophy aspect of this. They do not. Ahmad fits his philosophy more than Mazraoui. He's picked Ahmad at wingback many, many times. So clearly it's not an issue for him to pick him at wingback. He's played Kobbie Mainoo in the midfield. When he came in, his first instinct was Ugarte and Mainoo in the midfield. That was his first instinct. And then his second instinct was Casemiro and Ugarte, which is actually even better because you get a sitter and you get a presser. You cover up the deficiencies of Ugarte where he gets bypassed, and you cover up Casemiro's deficiencies by giving him a presser around him. It's actually the most balanced midfield we could do. He did all of that. So it's not like he can't. He made Xerxes into a 10 and then started playing him there regularly before he got injured. He can make these choices. He selected Aiden Heaven as a starter when he came back at left center back for the final game of the year and in other games as well. He can make these choices that are not changes to his philosophy. That's what I'm measuring him on because that's what I think the problem is.
I can swear Amorim begged him to stay. I wonder if he will bench Bruno on a Wilcox call. He will go by end of November if he is still adamant on squad.
Look, I agree. Here's the thing that people aren't. I think some people are getting it. Some people are understanding what I'm saying, and that's cool. Some people are not. It's fine. We're losing games. Something has to change. You can't just keep doing the same thing when you're losing. Maybe eventually you'll hope that it's going to click, but to me that's a bit of a hope. I'm not saying we can't change. We shouldn't change anything. What I'm saying is that I vehemently disagree with the context of and the conclusion as to what needs to change. Okay? Because what I see week in and week out is that we're repeatedly picking players who can't do what is asked of them. And then it looks like a system issue. This is a philosophy. This is my view on football. I've said for a long time. What you're looking at is only what players can do. If they can't do it, you're going to think that's the system. It's not. It's just what they're capable of executing. He is routinely picking players who can't execute the demands of the system in a few positions. That's his fault. You have two choices at that point in time. Change the system, maybe to suit those players who can't do it, or change the selections and pick players who can do it. And we have them. That's the part that kills me. That's the part that bothers me. That's the part that worries me more than anything. That's the part that I'm saying he's failing in. That's the part that I say has to change. Because if he doesn't change it, we will fail. We will continue to fail. We will continue to lose games. And by next international break, they'll be forced into looking at a change. But there are solutions at the club based on picking different players. Players very often dictate the system more than the system itself does. Every manager says that too. Ten Hag said the same thing. The players you pick and where you put them on the pitch determines your system. Much more than this mythical system. Okay? No, I don't think the 3-4-2-1 is incompatible at all. People keep talking about the spaces in the midfield. They don't They're not there, man. We played a 4-2-3-1 under Ten Hag, and we had a donut in the midfield. That isn't what's happening. And every time I ask someone to show it, they show some bullshit. That isn't what it is. They're manipulating a picture to try to say something's happening that it isn't. That's not what's happening. If your players in the midfield step away from the press, then you have space in the midfield. If you have a 3 in the midfield and a team brings a 4 into the midfield, you're overloaded. That's the same as a 3. It's the same as a 2. It's the same as anything. You have to have players in a man-to-man team follow them. That's it. That's the answer. That's all. It's really not that serious. It's not that crazy. The spaces just aren't there. These mythical spaces that are being pointed out are not there. The spaces are out wide. The spaces are out fucking wide. And that's the same way he played at Sporting. That's why I'm saying people aren't getting it. It's the same way he played at Sporting. Push the players into the middle and let the space go out wide. So people say, oh, it's easy. Teams just run down our flank. Yes, that's by design. They're not passing it through the middle outside of when a player completely abandons his post. It's not what's going on. Hold 1 second, guys. All right. Yeah. Again, I've asked people to look at the space, to look at this, and I watched the whole first half through with people. These spaces are just, they're not. I'm sorry, they're not there. And I see the screenshots, and I go, "What are you talking about? Like, what is going on here? What are we seeing? You know what I mean? That's not the issue to me. I do knows the system better than the players and all the former players. Yes. Go ask yourself how many times Wayne Rooney watched Sporting. Wayne Rooney's a terrible manager, by the way. My favorite player of all time. One of the worst managers ever, just by the way. So, I mean, it's whatever. But like, we played a 4-2-3-1, 3-man midfield. We had a donut in the middle. It's not a numbers game. System and formation are two different things that people think are the same thing. Exactly. That's totally correct. Yeah. I know something isn't right. Kes. That's totally right. Something is totally wrong. Look, if you took City today and you stuck Doku at the 6, it wouldn't work, right? That's a real dramatic example of it. If you stuck Doku at the 6, would you say that the system is the problem or the player? Right? The player, right? And you would then blame the manager for doing what? For picking the player in that position, right? That makes total sense to me. That would be the issue. It's just that. It's like, it is that stupidly simple. How come we don't create chances for our strikers? That's a great question, and that is the biggest question. Thing is, though, when all the ex-players are questioning the system, you know damn well the existing players. Yeah, I know that. Unfortunately, I do know that. The problem is the pundits have not been helpful for 10 years on us, unfortunately, because they've been a part of stirring this drama up for so many years and causing so many problems and things like that, and getting in the ear of players and shit like that. We've heard about this. We've talked about it. It is an issue, and it doesn't make them right. There's plenty of ex-players that make for terrible, terrible pundits and terrible coaches. Some of them say this. Roy Keane will sit there and tell you every week, he said, we don't need a coach against Grimsby, where people are, so which ex-player are we listening to? Because Roy Keane said, Bruno's the worst captain of all time. They don't try anything. They don't do anything. They don't run. They don't try hard enough. You end it without a yellow card. There's no passion. He's not blaming the system. Roy Keane said Grimsby that they should have won without a manager. There's no system involved in that. So which ex-player's right? Because they all have different fucking views on this. Some I agree with, some I don't. But who's right? I don't know. I have no fucking clue. Neither do you. And that's why we can't listen to them. They all say different shit 24/7. They all go back and forth and round in circles. And they all have different views. They're hobby horsing in the way that they talk, okay? Roy Keane is a passion merchant, even though he's a hell of a lot more than that. But he's always going to talk about fight. That's how he sees the game. Cool. That's how he sees the game, right? Scholes, maybe he doesn't have the defensive discipline, but Scholes is a player that I think worked his ass off for the physicality, let's say. I wouldn't even say discipline. Scholes didn't have the athleticism, but to act like he wasn't a passion player to me would be crazy. He was a passion player. I mean, that entire United team was a passion player. You know what I mean? Wayne Rooney played like 4 different positions and just did the job that was asked of him.
Since Ashley Young and Antonio Valencia, we haven't had good fullbacks that can attack and defend. This is why we don't create chances.
Fair enough. It can be personnel. I mean, Dorgu, if he had a better game, could have certainly created 5, 6, 7, 8 chances. No doubt about that. Dorgu got the ball in a lot of really good positions. Now, I hear that one of the criticisms that you can say there is that a lot of the ball is falling to wingbacks. So pick the right wingbacks. Because when the ball falls to Ahmad for the majority of your chances, I'm happy. That's a player I want involved in the majority of our chances. When the ball falls to Mazraoui, I'm not happy. That's about picking the right players. That's about picking the right players and having the right options. That's why you do wingbacks, essentially, very often, why he converted wingers. So like at Sporting, he converted Maxi Araujo from a winger, and he converted Quenda back there, okay? And they're both attackers first, right? So we may not have those options. Dorgu is young. I'm giving him time. He's got plenty of time to go. He's got a lot of athleticism. He's got to improve on his delivery of the final ball. If he was better at it, we'd probably be scoring more goals. He's not. But again, that's like, all right, so we just accept that we have a... Let me back this up. Let me back this discussion up for you for a second, okay? And just point it out, all right? Let me just point this out for 1 second. If we switch to a back 4 and Patrick Dorgu is our left back, are you saying he's not going to need to create as a left back? Because every single modern football system has left backs doing a lot of creativity and right backs doing a lot of creativity. When we were good under Solskjaer, you know it, I know it, we all saw it. That Shaw-Rashford connection, even in Ten Hag's first season, cash money. Left back, left wing combination, right back, right wing combination is football. In a 4-back, in a 3-back, all of that, it's the same. He would be having the same problems in a back 4, just like we had when we were shoehorning players into that left back position when we played a back 4 under Ten Hag. Would he be a little bit better? Yeah. Does that mean you should not do it? No. No. It means you need players who are good enough because the ceiling is high. Imagine for a moment. I didn't think I'd see Ashley Young and Valencia revisionism this quick. 2 packs the same ass. It is funny. But imagine for a moment. Now hold on for a second. Now imagine for a moment that you're seeing Dorgu receiving that ball in those spaces. And imagine for the moment it's DeMarco instead. Or prime Marcus Alonso instead. Then you're going, oh. I get it. I see what this system is trying to do. I get it now. That'll be the light bulb moment. If you were seeing somebody of that quality receiving the ball in those positions. Because that's what it creates. It creates an advantage if you have players in those positions. If you have good players in those positions. What people are asking for is to just lower the standards. And I saw someone say, like, you're asking Dorgu to be Ryan Giggs or whatever. And I do think that's funny because to a degree, you flip it the other way. Imagine if you did have Giggs, because all the good United teams, guess what they had? Giggs, Rooney, Ronaldo. Look at the wide players and the amount of unbelievable David Beckham. Like, hold on, Evra, Irwin. Like, look at Gary Neville. Like, just hold on for a second and just realize something. Just realize something for a moment. The United teams that won did have fucking Ryan Giggs being Patrick Dorgu. They did have David Beckham being Patrick Dorgu. That's the quality that is necessary to win titles. You have to have players who are that good. Trent, Robertson, Kyle Walker, when he was good. That's the level of player that is required to win. You have to have better players who can do things in those positions. That's the advantage of it. If Patrick Dorgu was receiving the ball where David Beckham was receiving the ball for Sir Alex, would it have been good? Fucking no. Not on his current form, not on his current ability. Maybe he can get there. I've got faith. Again, he's young. I think he's going to be great. If it's Semenyo next season playing at left wing back, receiving the ball in those positions, you're going, holy shit, what a system. We're getting Semenyo running into open spaces, attacking teams one-on-one every game. What a system. You know what I mean? But my point is these are if, buts, and maybes, but it doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't fucking matter. Sorry, James, for yelling at you. But it doesn't matter. My point is that you can always flip these conversations the other way around and say, damn. Imagine it's David Beckham receiving the ball, hitting those crosses in. Imagine it's Gary Neville receiving the ball, hitting those crosses in. Imagine it's fucking any of the 50 great wide players we've had from 1992 through 2012. Imagine it's any of them. But that's what you need. So you can go and say, oh, well, shit. The system's making Patrick Dorgu receive the ball and he can't pass. Okay, that's the problem, man. That's the problem right there. The system is asking for a midfielder to track players and be able to hit a long ball. Yes! Get a player who can track players and hit the long ball. The system is asking for wingbacks to hit a one-on-one. Yes! Get a player who can win a one-on-one. Yeah, you're right. Gary Neville's the wrong example for crosses. That was probably that one was over the line. He was much better at other things, but he was not a good crosser of the ball. Regardless, we played a 4-4-2. So you often had wing backs who received the ball in wide areas, and those wing backs, those right mids and left mids, are really very not much different to the way we're playing now. But look at the quality we have. Yeah, we got Dorgu. He's young. He's not good enough yet. My point on it is that maybe he'll become good enough. Maybe he will. Maybe they believe in him. That's a recruitment issue. If he becomes good enough, great. They bought a young, high-potential player, and they want another wingback. Because right now, it's not good enough. Okay? But that's the point. When we're talking about this, you can say it's the system. I'm saying, well, what if we're actually trying to build something a lot bigger? We're trying to win titles. We're going to need players who are that good in the long term. We just need more people. We want a midfielder or two, a center back, and a wing back. Yeah, he's 5 months older than Fredrickson. Yeah, exactly. We want these players. So what if next summer we're buying a top wingback? Suddenly this problem isn't a problem anymore. The problem in the current is that, correctly, as many people say, we're not good enough. We don't have players good enough. But that doesn't solve the problem. Where's the money come from? Well, we saved a fuckload of money. By the way, finances out Wednesday. So if you want to know where the money is coming from, I'll tell you on Wednesday. The next financials are expected on Wednesday. They should wrap up the year. Then I'll have all the savings that United made in after July 1st. On Wednesday, I will tell you. On Wednesday, I will tell you. I will tell you where the money's coming from.
Play Cobby and you profit overall. Ugarte is better at winning the ball back after turnovers, but you'll have much less net turnovers with
Agreed.
Cobby.
Agreed. I agree with you on that. I want to see Cobby play as well. But like I said, it's just there are things I believe he can do today to make the team better. But when people say it's a system issue, what they're usually saying is it's a system issue because XYZ players receiving the ball and they're not able to do enough with that. And then they say, so let's change it because the Dorgu's receiving the ball in attacking areas. And I look at that and I go, that's not you're focused on the wrong problem. How many teams are getting week in and week out this type of space for their forwards and their wingers? Very, very few against teams like Man City. How many teams? And it's not just Man City. It's happening in basically, every single game. Let's find this one. Okay. How many teams are getting players this wide open in the attack? Repeatedly, through regular, predictable, patterned build-up. How many players are getting this? How many teams are getting this many systemic advantages where they're getting a player who is this far in the open? Because it happens 6, 7, 8 times per game for United. It wasn't happening that much to us. City never got that kind of advantage. If they did, they probably would have scored 10 fucking goals. If they were getting the positions that we were getting, if they were getting one of their forwards in the positions Dorgu was in, if Doku was getting the ball where Dorgu is, they'd get 10 goals. If Haaland was getting the ball where we're getting the ball, he'd get 10 goals. We had so many instances where we outnumbered City and had open players in the wide areas, and we can say, well, yeah, but it's Dorgu. Cool. So he either needs to improve or you got to sign a better player. That's how I see it. That's all I'm saying. When I say that's when I don't see it as a system issue, that's what I'm talking about. You can look at that and say it's a system issue. I flip the conversation around and I say, let's get somebody better for that position then. If they can't do the job. Haaland did and he scored. Exactly. One time. That's all it takes. When Ahmad's getting it out there, it's working. When Mbumo's getting it out there, it's working. So it's not even like the system. It's not even all of these players are bad. It's not even like, oh, screw all the players. It's just on the manager. There's enough opportunities being made where we can put better players in that position and win.
Ruben out of his mouth said, I'd rather have a FB that attacks than a winger that defends. Amorim doesn't have the brilliance to take us to glory days.
I mean, that's fair enough if that's your opinion. I'm just looking at that. That's fair enough if that's your opinion. I get it. I see that you see it that way. I don't, and that's fine. Maybe and you know what? He might. Don't get me wrong here. System, players, choices. The system is there. There are opportunities created. We need better players for those positions. And he can make better choices today. because Mazraoui also received the ball in a lot of 1v1 situations, and he's not nearly as good as Ahmad at it. And that is on him. So they're 100% what he needs to fix is choices. Surely it's an issue, however, that Dorgu is the person who's getting the most freedom on the pitch. No, because he's the best athlete. He's one of the best athletes on the pitch. He said it's easier to teach a fullback to attack than a winger to defend. Correct. That is correct. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to keep a fullback to attack. Okay. He's the best athlete on the pitch, and he's actually understanding it. He's the one getting the system. He's just not there yet, talent-wise. Okay? So that's how I see it. These are my views. I'm going to record a tactical video. I'll publish it tomorrow. We'll discuss it tomorrow afternoon, and we'll get back into some of this again. But again, like I said, I think the problem is the choices he's making, not the system. I just don't see it that way. I'll go through the whole game, and tomorrow morning I'll give you a video on that. But yes, to wrap it up information-wise, again, as I said, they are backing him. They feel that there's progress, but there is pressure that something needs to maybe be adjusted, and that doesn't mean changing the manager. It means between the manager, Wilcox, Omar, and all of them, we have to figure something out to improve. So maybe that means pressure to change some players without changing the system, and I think that would help. And I think that's what he's getting wrong most of all, in my opinion. Okay? Thank you all. I've got to go. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Thanks. I'll see you guys tomorrow. It was fun. I appreciate all the dialogue back and forth. I think most people were fairly decent and respectful in both directions. And yes, I appreciate you all very much. Make sure to